I'm Tom Townsend. This is a program all about military vehicles, collecting, restoring, and keeping them rolling. Because when we restore some of these, we're not just preserving bits of history, we're honoring the men and the women of all nations who had the courage to ride them into harm's way. Welcome once again to Military Motor Pool. Behind the gates of this compound is one of the most unique businesses connected with the military vehicle hobby. Their customers are among the most serious collectors in the world. So exclusive, in fact, that we're not even going to say exactly where we are. But Military Motor Pool will be the first show to take cameras inside. So follow me. This is the headquarters of the International Repo Depot. And all around me are the big, fancy toys that most collectors can only dream about owning. And that's because for the past 20 years or so, the Repo Depot has been a major importer and a restoration facility for all kinds of armored vehicles. And the man that makes this all happen is Earl Tucker. Earl, you were a real pioneer in the field of importing historic military vehicles. Can you tell us kind of how you got into that?
Initially it started out, I used to be involved in reenacting, and when you collect all the memorabilia and the weapons, and then you decided you get tired of walking. So I restored a 1944 Dodge Command Car, and I used that for a number of years. After word got out that I had the capability and the facility to restore vehicles, people started bringing vehicles to me, and we would restore them and return them to their natural glory. And then we got involved in actually importing military vehicles from all over the world. We would buy them from different countries such as Belgium, England, where they do sell vehicles to the public. And so we have been importing for some 15 years various armored vehicles that we can get our hands on. And of course, over those 15 years, most of the stockpiles have been sold off that have been used in the Army in the Cold Wars. So we continue to import collectible vehicles that are World War II and after, and it's been a very good business.
I remember that 15 years ago you were bringing in Barrett Scout cars, Saracen APCs, Scorpion light tanks, and I know that the sources on most of those have dried up now. In fact, you're one of the few places left you can find a part for one of them. So what are you bringing in now?
Currently we have some World War II Russian cannons that are coming out of the Czech Republic. There is a lot of Soviet equipment that's still available, but it's most of the larger, the T-72 tanks, T-55s, very large vehicles. But most of all the European equipment has been disposed of over the years. They've gone to lighter vehicles or wheeled vehicles, but the Soviet equipment has slowly been sold off over the last 20 years to collectors and destroyed and scrapped.
Imagine a T-72 has a pretty good price tag on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. T-72 tank in really nice condition, almost brand new. It goes for about $250,000.
Okay, so how do you actually go about getting, let's say, a T-72 with its main gun still intact into this country and into the hands of a collector?
It takes about 12 months from the time we start an importation process till the vehicle actually arrives. You have to be registered with the U.S. government in the Arms Export Control field to get the permit to import the tank. Of course, the weapons any weapon on it, cannon, has to be deactivated to U.S. standards. And then you must have export license from the country of purchase. And that export license, because it is still considered a weapon, even though the cannon is destroyed, it has to be exported legally. And that takes about 3 to 6 months to get that export permit in place. And then if you're transiting other foreign countries to get to a port as such, to ship the vehicle out, each of those countries require an import and export permit to get that vehicle through those countries, because in Europe those are still considered weapons even though they're non-functional.
Well, I can see that anything that weighs 50 tons and rolls 40, 50 miles an hour has the potential to do some damage. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the people that collect these are strictly collectors. They have no bad intentions. They're mainly toys. They are what we call big boy toys in this market, and they're a lot of fun. They can, they're very impressive. People keep them just like they would a Ferrari. They keep them in a garage and take care of them and cuddle them and wash them. So it's a hobby, and it's a very fun hobby to enjoy.
couple of shows ago I did a segment on the Ferret, and this Fox armored car here to me has always been kind of like a Ferret on steroids. Why don't you tell us about that one?
Well, right you are, Tom. This is almost 3 times bigger than a Ferret. Has the same type of gearbox, same engine, 8-cylinder versus 6-cylinder. Difference is it does have a turret, sports a 30mm Rawdon cannon. It's an automatic loading cannon. Shells come in a clip with 3 rounds, and they would be fed into the gun, and there again it would fire automatically, so boom, boom, boom. And it's really a neat vehicle. It has a 2-man in the turret, 1 driver, so a crew of 3. Gasoline, 8-cylinder engine. It was originally built to be fordable up to about 6 feet, but they found out that didn't work too well because of the buoyancy of the vehicle. Top speed on this vehicle is about 60 miles an hour, so it is an extremely fast and agile vehicle. The transmission is a semi-automatic transmission. Again, shifts just like a manual, and then it runs in running and stopping just like a automatic transmission. It is a total aluminum hull, so it's a little lighter than if it had been made out of steel.
What does this one weigh?
This vehicle weighs 14,000 pounds. So that makes it very collectible in the sense that it can be transported in a gooseneck trailer, so your average collector can actually move this vehicle around without having to pay exorbitant expensive for trucking.
In 1946, the British War Office began developing the FV family of vehicles, based on several of the most successful vehicles of World War II. The FV family initially included the Ferret Scout Car, FV 701, the Saracen APC, FV 603, the Saladin Heavy Armored Car, FV 601, and the Scorpion Light Tank, FV 101. All were designed to utilize many interchangeable parts and components, including Rolls-Royce and Jaguar engines and Daimler pre-select transmissions. The Fox FV 721 was not conceived until 1965. It was designed as a reconnaissance vehicle capable of replacing both the Ferret and Saladin. The first Foxes entered service in 1973 and served with British forces until 1994. The controls are similar to the Ferret and Saracen, except that the Fox has power-assisted steering. The transmission, like the Ferret, is pre-select. Powered by a Jaguar 4.2-liter 6-cylinder gas engine, the same engine first used in the Jaguar XK series car, the ignition system is fully waterproofed and screened to prevent radio interference. Yeah, this is what we call having fun. Great tank, great engine, lots of firepower. We could do this sort of thing all day. A machine gun is the all-time favorite accessory to put on your military vehicle. And Earl's company was one of the first in this area to begin building the propane oxygen simulators. So when we come back, we're going to play with these and we're going to make some serious noise. At the time of this taping, a single round of .50 caliber machine gun ammunition is selling for around $4. Blanks, about $1.50 a piece. Now, a real Browning 50 caliber machine gun fires at a rate of 650 rounds a minute. So even if you're shooting blanks, 1 minute of trigger time is going to cost you almost $1,000. Now, on the other hand, this propane oxygen simulator can shoot all day for about $30 worth of propane and oxygen. It gives off a similar noise and similar flash to the real thing, and the simulator itself can be adjusted to match the rate of fire of almost any weapon. Two things it cannot simulate are the weapon's recoil and the extraction of spent cartridges. Let me show you how it works. Most machine gun simulators are built from demilled real machine guns. Others are solid reproductions, such as the Browning we just saw, which is an aluminum casting. A few are handmade replicas which use almost no original parts, such as this 1917 Browning built by the late Lee Hutchins. But as you can see, no matter what a builder starts with, inside there's virtually nothing left of the real gun. The barrel has been replaced with a steel tube, and a compression chamber is welded where the chamber used to be. Two lines carry propane and oxygen into the chamber where they're ignited by a spark plug. The flow of these gases is controlled by solenoid switches here and here, and they're activated by a circuit board usually hidden in an ammo box. Also in the box is a battery and an automotive coil used to fire the spark plug. The circuit board also times the fire to the coil, and the rate of fire is adjustable with a tiny adjustment screw here. There's also a safety switch which activates the circuit to the gun's trigger. Hoses of the type used for acetylene torches run from the propane and oxygen bottles and are connected here. Correct pressure is critical to the gun's operation, and it's controlled by these regulators. Every gun is a little bit different. Whenever possible, check with the builder for the exact pressure settings. But for most guns, you can start with less than 20 pounds on the oxygen regulator and under 5 pounds on the propane. Then fire the gun and make small adjustments until it sounds right. You'll also find that with the same adjustment, you can increase or decrease the muzzle flash. Everything from AK-47s to the 16-inch guns on a battleship have been successfully converted to gas fires. But the smaller the gun, the harder the process becomes. With the 50 caliber Browning and even the 30 calibers, there was plenty of room inside the receiver to hold the solenoids, the spark plugs, and all the plumbing necessary. But with this Bren light machine gun, the solenoids were too big to fit in the receiver and had to be mounted outside, which distracts slightly from the realism. Propane is a heavy gas and collects in low places. On an open vehicle like a Jeep, it's not a problem, but never locate your bottles inside a closed vehicle, such as an armored personnel carrier or a tank. Hide them in field gear or ammunition boxes outside the vehicle. May not always be quite as realistic, but it's a whole lot safer.
And one more thing, kids. Don't try this one at home. Driving with a standing gunner is an excellent way to roll your Jeep. It looked great in old war movies, but in reality, people got hurt and vehicles got wrecked getting those shots. The additional weight of the gunner, added to that of the gun, changes the Jeep's center of gravity and greatly increases the risk of a rollover. And since a World War II Jeep is not equipped with either a roll bar or seat belts, trust me, you do not want this to happen. But for those of you who are going to do it anyway, a few suggestions. First, don't make sharp turns. Don't make fast turns. When you do turn, be sure the gunner leans into the turn, kind of like riding a motorcycle. And if your springs are 70-year-old originals, change them out. Browning machine guns have been carried on vehicles of many nations, and numerous mounts are available. The water-cooled M1917 was developed during the First World War. The air-cooled 1919 and 50 caliber were developed between the wars. The 1919 remained in service until the 1990s, and the MA2 50 cal remains in service today. The British Vickers 303 first saw service in the trenches of World War I, where it earned the title of Grand Old Lady of No Man's Land. It continued through World War II, Korea, and even into Vietnam. In addition to being used by British Commonwealth and colonial forces, it also was used by the French Foreign Legion in World War II. It adapts easily to a number of Browning mounts. The Bren was developed during the 1930s and remained the standard light machine gun of the British and Commonwealth forces through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Falklands War, and the Gulf War, before finally being phased out in about 1991. There are vehicle mounts available, in addition to the built-in bipod, ground tripod, and the anti-aircraft extension. So no matter what military vehicle you own, if it was designed to carry a machine gun, there is probably a simulator that will work on it. Likewise, if you're reenacting any period from the Spanish-American War through Iraq, guns from the correct period are available and at a fraction of the cost of a real thing. These simulators are not toys. Well, actually, they are toys. But just like blanks can be deadly for the first few feet in front of the barrel, so can these. So handle them with the same respect you would a real loaded machine gun. And that ought to be a whole lot of respect.
Now, besides building guns like we just saw, you've also now expanded into building simulators for the U.S. military.
What we have here is what we call the 50 caliber simulator. These are not necessarily have to look like a real M250 caliber, but they run on oxygen propane. They make the same noise and the same flash. So we have two different models here, the XM1A, which is this one, the XM2 Alpha. Major difference is this is self-contained, battery is inside. These have wireless remotes so they can be remotely operated from a distance. And they're used to provide background sound, machine gun fire, flash, for training our troops. They become a very important part of their training all throughout the United States and Europe. This is, for the last 3 years, we've done everything we could just to keep up with this type of equipment and supply it to our services that need it. So if you look at these, the XM1 Alpha, it looks kind of like a small 30 caliber Browning machine gun.
Yeah.
The battery is external. These particular units are going to Hawaii. They're using a wireless remote control so they can set them up and actually remote operate them. The only difference between the XM2 Alpha and 1 Alpha is the enclosure. The enclosure on the 2 Alpha has the battery located inside so the unit can be easily picked up, moved around. The only connections on the back are for the oxygen and propane connection. They also have a stand so it can set up off the ground. These are used on everything from simple training scenarios where the troops come in to their training support center, check it out, take it out to the field, set up ambush operations and what have you. Or they put them on live fire ranges where the gun begins to fire when the target comes up. When the target's hit, the gun stops firing. It gives the soldier that much needed extra oomph to feel that in live combat.
Yeah, get some idea of what it's really like to get shot at.
Exactly.
And they sure are a lot more practical than shooting blanks.
Absolutely. Once the initial purchase of the equipment, it's basically pennies per shot.
I know you have a couple of incredibly unique projects on the drawing board. Can we talk about them?
We sure can. We are in the process now of already designed and in the process of the manufacturing stages of full-size replica running, driving Sherman and Mark IV German tanks.
So you're saying you're going to reproduce a Sherman and a Mark IV?
That is correct.
All right, a Mark IV and a Sherman. Why these two tanks?
Well, these two tanks were the most produced tanks in World War II. So they would have encountered each other in the most battles throughout World War II. So from a historical standpoint, these are the most famous tanks. Number two, these, because of their design, their squareness, these are the easiest tanks to reproduce, in our opinion. So the object of this project is to produce a replica tank that is full size, running, driving, that can be moved around by the average owner and weigh in at about 14,000 pounds. The basic tank will come with just a standard interior, seats for the driver, the co-driver, the gunner, the loader. Anything else that's wanted, if the customer wants a completely decked out tank as original 100%, we can provide that.
Well, Earl, thanks so much for having us out.
Enjoyed it.
This has been both fun and noisy, and there's so much going on around here that I'm sure we'll be back to the International Repo Depot before very long. But until then, from all the staff at Military Motor Pool, so long and keep 'em rolling.